and what I'm so adamant about talking about is like, don't put people on pedestals. Because all like how I kind of look at mentors and teachers is they just got really good at something that they're able to teach now, but they're still working on other things too. And it's beautiful that they can teach that because the world needs that, but that doesn't make them any better than you. So a really good sign of a good mentor or a good teacher is that as soon as you step into the space, they acknowledge that you are equals and that you're stepping into this space as equals. And that should be the first thing that comes, and that is acknowledged too.
I'm Autumn Bensett, founder of the Bossy Babe brand, fitness coach, and serial entrepreneur turned intuitive life and business coach. The Wealthy Babe podcast is for the ambitious, courageous, and spiritually charged up woman in network marketing, craving wealth not only in her bank account, but in every aspect of her life. Get plugged in here each week for authentic and unfiltered conversations from myself and industry leaders who are going to support you and give you all the juicy behind the scenes and real talk around business, spirituality, strong points of view, and doing shit differently. This is a safe space to come undone, be heard, and be given permission to rewrite your own damn rules. So here we go.
Very getting ready to launch a course. So I'm sure you know that feeling.
There's so much. It's so much fun, but there's just work. There's always things that are going on. Even if you have a team, even if you have support, you're still the ringleader. There's still a million things that are on your plate. Oh my gosh. When did the doors already open officially, or is it just
no, I'm actually I'm doing the pre-order, and then I thought pretty much everything was I'm still working on it a little bit, but I thought I had everything that was going to be included. And then I just have been getting a lot of messages that more things need to be added. So I'm I wish you told me this a month ago. But it's good. It's a lot of channeling because it's all not all, some of it's a lot of stuff that I've learned over time and stuff like that. But a lot of it is I'm directly channeling a lot of things. So it's a lot of meditation. I don't think my family knows I'm alive. I haven't I've been really unresponsive to a lot of people, but it's 2 weeks. It's just it is what it is. So
that's powerful though. So in a situation like that, is it the program came out into existence as it was channeled through you, or were you okay, now this is the time to bring this into existence, and then it started to channel through you?
So I actually got the download for it. I've known for a long time I was going to do it. And then slowly things started to come to me in July and then September. I mean, not September. And then August, I really started okay. And then I was I went into meditation. I was I know you want this out soon. When do you want it out? And they said October 4th. And so I was okay. So slowly over time, things have come to me, and it was kind of this is what the main things that you need to include. And then really it's been, okay, now we're going to tell you everything that we want in there and what we're going to say. Cause I do include archangels and gods and goddesses and ascended masters. And there's channeled messages from each of them, but there's 10 of them. So it's it's not pages and pages of message. It's a page of per, but it's still I have to make sure I'm energetically aligned to receive and make sure it's coming filtered through in the right way. And then it's sacred geometry that I haven't really talked about before. There's a lot of stuff that I haven't publicly talked about. So I'm just trying to make sure that I'm talking about it in a way that's the way it's supposed to be talked about. So yeah, it's exciting. And I'm there's nothing like this. And it's so cool because I'm so whenever kind of how I just kind of work is I'm just I love to like learn at different things, but I don't really do anything unless like they tell me to learn, because there's just so many things at once that like I get the intuitive hit to start really going into.
Yeah.
And so I like you have to like compartmentalize, and so it's been good. It's been a lot, but yeah, I'm excited. And like I kept telling them, like, I don't want to like come out with like a manifestation course. Like, I don't want, like, I have meditation courses, but like, and like there's nothing out there that exists like them. But I'm like, I don't want to come out with another like thing that other people have done. And like, I never want to do that. So they're like, here you go. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it's like, here's the silver, like, here you go. Okay. And then take everything that comes with it. I love that you're talking about this, because it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful that you're creating this incredible course and bringing to life like everything that you have gone through and that you're being downloaded through like over years and years. And we'll probably talk a lot about this like in the episode and everything, but yeah, it's so beautiful when you can know in your soul that there's nothing else out there that exists. It's like when I was creating this program too, I have a money program. Other people have money programs, and, like, beautiful, like, but this, it's like nobody has exactly this, because a large part is downloaded, because there's been so many, guides and mentors and other people that I've had and received messages through over the past, 5 years of entrepreneurship, but the past 2 years of like, coaching in this space. So there's so much that comes through. And so you get like these hits and you're like, here it is. But I don't want it to be I never wanted it to be just like any other program that you can find out there. So in order to create that, you have to allow space for what's actually supposed to come through. So yeah, I'm really excited about your course. This is going to be so beautiful. I know you're talking a little bit about it, and I think it's going to just like beautifully flow into everything that we're talking about today. Thank you so much for being here. I already just started recording because I was like,
thank you for having me.
That's fine. We're here. We're good. Just the raw unfilteredness. Thank you so much, Haley, for being here. I'm so excited to have you.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I loved having you on my podcast. And as soon as you came out, I was like, I can't wait to release this episode, because I thought you had such great wisdom. So I'm very, very excited to talk to you again.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Haley. I am seriously so excited about today's conversation. I loved our chat when I came on your podcast. So make sure you guys go listen to that episode if you haven't already on the I Shine Bright podcast with Haley Cole. You're going to want to go check it, because it was such a good episode. And I just wish we're going to do a little bit of this here. I did ask Haley to do a live reading for me on here, because I've never done this before on a podcast episode. And we had such an incredible experience, or I had a really incredible experience when I came onto your podcast, and it was something that wasn't shared in the episode. And I just, if this is something that you resonate with, I wanted to also give you guys the opportunity to see how brilliant Haley is in this space, and be able to get into her energy through her program or through a reading, if this is something that you offer individually. I don't even know if I asked you that.
Yeah. So
I'm just pushing something that I don't know if you have an offer for.
I do offer readings. I also do like really deep dive into spiritual coaching. So I teach people kind of how to do this, because I think everyone has this ability. And I teach people, we go into like your past lives and like your karma and like inner child. And I don't do business coaching. I like had some people be like, what should I do with my business? Yeah. And like, that was what they wanted. Autumn's really great for that. I particularly, I just focus really on spirituality and deepening your intuition, and growing that like part of yourself. So yeah, that, and then readings, and I have a course coming out, and I have a couple of other courses too. But yeah, that's like kind of my offerings. And then, like she said, I have a podcast called the Shine Bright Podcast, and I love doing it.
Podcasting is one of my favorite things. And
it's
I feel
so fun.
It's so much fun because it's just a conversation, and it's one of those things that I was so nervous about. I was so nervous about it. I was like, I want to do this. It was on my heart for so long, but it felt so out of reach. Do you remember like before you started yours? And I don't know if you ever felt that way, but it felt so out of reach to me. Like I'd listen to these like big names and these women or authors in the industry, and me, I couldn't have one. And then I did it, and I couldn't believe I waited so long.
I think with me, I wanted to do a podcast because I was working a 9 to 5 at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need something. So like I'd been thinking about it. It was more just along the lines of like, what do I want my podcast to be? Because it evolves. Like it was originally, my original idea for it was that I would walk up to random strangers and just start giving them advice. That's like that's a horrible idea, probably.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine today in today's world where that? Yeah.
So it really evolved like a lot, and then it got to a place that I think I was just so happy I finally got like the idea of what it was supposed to be. I was nervous, but I loved interviewing. Like I love interviewing and ask people questions. So I think I was like so excited to do it.
It's been one of my favorite ways to connect with other women. Like it opened up such a beautiful channel for just neutral conversation, to get to know one another, to highlight each other's gifts and expertise and brilliance, and being able to like be in a container like this where you get to feel how lit up they are about something. It's infectious. It's a really beautiful feeling. And I get so lit up by being on, like by podcasting, by whether it's, on somebody else's and being a guest or running this podcast. It's so beautiful. So anyways, now we're digging down a rabbit hole, but love podcasting, essentially. Go do it.
You're thinking about it. Go do it because it's a blast.
Go do it. It's a blast. But I'm going to just quickly... We'll share a little bit more about Haley's story in a little bit, but I wanted just to intro her really quick. So then before we kind of get into everything, you have a little bit of an idea on who Haley is if you have not met her yet, even though I already know that now you're already like going over to your Instagram, searching her up and trying to stalk her while you're listening to this episode. Haley started her spiritual journey 8 years ago, or at 8 years old, sorry, not 8 years old, at 8 years old, when she was introduced to various wonderful teachers. Throughout her childhood and young adult life, she continued learning about meditation, utilizing her intuition, the chakras, angels, gods, goddesses, ascended masters, and more. At 16, she became a Reiki Master. Through her podcast, coaching, speaking, readings, meditations, and courses, she hopes to spread the message that everyone can tap into their gifts and understand what is possible. Because once we realize what is possible, we change the world. You're just such a beautiful soul, aren't you? Listen, Angel, you're on Earth.
Thank you.
Obsessed. Oh my gosh. You're welcome. Did you want to jump into the reading? Is that how you feel good starting there? Okay.
Yeah. So I actually prefer to do, when I go on podcasts and I do them first, I like doing them at first, which I don't know if everyone does, but because sometimes people start talking and it's like, that came up in your reading. And then it's like, I have to like think as like, I have to ask like other things of like, what else do you want me to tell her? So I like doing it first.
Okay.
It's like the initial.
All you go, girl.
Okay. So a really big thing, and two, like, you don't have to post everything that I say.
Okay.
First of all. So they're saying like relationship is coming up a little bit right now for you. And they don't want you to worry. They want you to just kind of know that sometimes things happen in seasons, and that it's okay. And to just like know that this is just a period where it's almost like an intake of breath of like, it's like, just feels like tight almost. And soon you'll be able to exhale. And it's not that like the relationship is bad. It's just like a season, and it's a season of growth for both individuals. But they are saying, I think this might have come up when I talked to you last time, that maybe in October, it would be a good time to like almost like go for like a weekend getaway and take some time off. like a week. Like if you don't want to take like the whole month off, that's okay, but definitely take like a week off because you personally need the time to reset. And I think it seems from what they're saying, it would be really good for your relationship if you guys took that time together. Again, you don't have to post like all the stuff, but it does feel like October is a month for you to really just take a breath and go inward a little bit and look at other things almost like outside of your business. Just because obviously like as entrepreneurs, your business is it's like such a part of your life. Like it's a living, breathing entity essentially that you're trying to like constantly maneuver and like get a hold of and grow, but you've been doing and you've been going for a really long time. And so it's really important in October that you take a little, like as much time as you feel comfortable with, but they're really suggesting at least a week to yourself to get to go inward and come back into yourself, because the next year for you is going to be really big. It's really big for a lot of people. So just like a heads up for everyone who's listening, like 2020 is going to be like a really great, abundant year if you've been doing like a lot of business growing for like a year prior, or you've been working on manifesting really beautiful things into your life. Like 2020 is a really big year for a lot of people to start to see like almost like everything coming into fruition. So you've been successful for like that amount of time, but essentially what's going to happen with you is you're going to get even busier come like this next coming year. So it's part of the reason why taking a little bit of time in October is so important, because you don't want to step into the space of this energy that's going to be there for you and still have like leftover like gook essentially. Like that's, I don't know why they're using that word. From like, they're saying like the prior 3 months. You want to create that space and create that time, because November and December are more of like, it's like a doing time, but it's a little bit of a reflection time too. So you don't want to be like in that reflection time of like, look how amazing things are. And like, I am doing all this stuff and it is great, but also still trying to like work through all this other stuff. Like you want to be able to devote this time to reflection and all of the beautiful things that like you've done thus far, and then planning for the next year ahead, and allowing yourself that space. So in October, that's why it's so important for you to take the little bit of time to yourself, and also like nurture that relationship as well.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Thank you so much for that. It's, it's so true though. Like I was listening to you speak about all of the things and I'm like, yeah. I feel this because, me and Derek, honestly, like over the past, there's a lot of things with relationships actually going on in my life right now. Like I can definitely feel what you're talking about when it's coming up for like relationships in this season, and looking at those and figuring out what do you want out of them and what are the boundaries and how do you elevate them and what needs to fall away, what isn't serving us in these certain relationships. So there's definitely a lot of this that has been coming up in my life recently with friends, with people in business, Derek, with family. There's definitely, and there's also like a really big like event that we have in a couple weekends. And there's been like a lot of anxiety around it just because of the relationships involved in which that we're going. And that's been something that I've been working through. So there's a lot of, when you're talking about relationships, I'm like, yes. I feel that. And then because in October, we did talk about this a little bit last time. And I think in part, oh my gosh, what am I trying to say? In part because there's the launch of this brand new program, but then also that'll be a year, like we will be a year in the end of October. And I think that has been, oh my gosh. So, that's a year since going nonstop with being mom and having her and running a business at the same time of having a baby. And it's been quite a long time since I've taken a full week off. We just went away for like a little staycation on the weekend. Me and Derek go away a couple times. go like a hotel and like I said, go to like a little staycation, even if it's an hour away, to have that break to rejuvenate. But it's been a while since I've had like, I think since before I got pregnant, probably since I've had like a week off, like in the sun or relaxing or just like being in the energy and the rejuvenation. So I definitely feel all the guides coming through, sharing these messages. And I need to like go into my like planner and be like, okay, block this time off and just go inward, because there is like, I totally feel that. And the year's coming and there's a lot of reflection and it's not time to speed up. And I think that's what I did last year. I sped up after Louis was born. And I think my soul's like, hey, you don't have to go there this year. Like you did that last year. That's great. That served the purpose. That was there for a reason. There was something there that you got to do or that you got to experience. But like now I know that this year, that's not the way. So I'm just receiving all of that. Wow. Well, thank you for that.
You're so welcome.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I wanted to go a little bit deeper into you first and foremost. And I want to hear a little bit more about how you got started with your spirituality at such a young age. I think that this is, I don't know if it's rare or if it's something that a lot of us, maybe some of us, maybe not all of us, but some of us tap into and maybe we don't even recognize it's there. Or like, what does your journey look like with it? I'm so interested.
So it's really interesting, I think, because I actually didn't even really realize until I was doing another podcast interview. And I was like, oh, wait, I've been thinking about this for so long. And I was actually pretty much always thinking about like spirituality and God. And like, I was Catholic for a little while. And like, so like Jesus and the angels and like what that meant and my relationship with them and like trying to communicate with them, even though I didn't know at that young age. This was probably like when I first really remember trying to, I was probably like 5 years old. So it started really young and was always something I was thinking about. So it was definitely like, I think I had just a very strong feeling of like, this is my purpose, even though like, I didn't understand that wording when I was that young. It was just, this is all I think about. And so I continued with, like, along with my family, obviously, in like that religion. And then my parents, when I was 8 or 9, I like honestly don't really remember which age. And they don't either. They decided that they wanted to really explore, and they decided that they really wanted to try and branch out and figure out exactly what other ways there are thinking, because they weren't necessarily subscribing to the same ideals as they were when they first started out. And so they started really like branching out, meeting other people. I had like met a shaman healer when I was like around that late years old range.
Wow.
And I had my first healing with them. And like, I really loved what he was saying. Like, I remember sitting in that and just being like, why are we always going to church when you can just come to this guy? Like, I don't understand. Cause it felt so real to me. And like, he just knew so much about me, and it felt like very connected to like nature and the kind of like God that I was always talking to, and like the kind of like other side and other beings that I was always communicating with. And that felt more in alignment than anything else. And then a little while later, I think it was probably around a year later, we were introduced to a person who really became like a close family friend of ours. His name is George Yaya. He's amazing. But he studied as a Yamas, kind of like a monk. And he is an amazing spiritual teacher, so intuitive. And he's a feng shui master, and he would come to like our house and he would visit us, and he would like teach my brothers and I about meditation and about energy and like the universe and manifestation before The Secret was a thing, and like all the different gods and different goddesses and ascended masters, and like how energy worked and how like your thoughts are so important, and all of this just stuff that people talk about now all the time. But at that time, it was just, no one was talking about it. And eventually it got to a point where like more people started to kind of get to know him, and he started teaching like classes that I would go to. And then at 14, I started that process to becoming a Reiki master, and I became one at 16. And so I was pretty like, I guess, immersed in it. I didn't realize until later how different that was. And like, I think I knew to an extent because I didn't talk about it. And like, I knew that it wasn't something that was going to be well received. So a huge part of my life was really just hush hush. And so I think that eventually like turned into shame, and shame into like who I was. Because on one hand, I was like, this is so beautiful, and like, I love this part of myself, but then I can't talk about it. And so I developed really low self-esteem. I felt like I couldn't fully be myself. I got into like a really toxic relationship at 16, which is like really ironic because this amazing thing happened. And then like this also like weird thing happened. And I stayed in that relationship for like 5.5 years. During that period of time, I developed really, really poor eating habits, and I'm like hesitant to call it an eating disorder, but I definitely lost a lot of weight. I did not treat my body well at all. And I did get out of that. And then I got like put on academic probation because my anxiety was so high. And like, I really worked through like that part of it, but I almost like worked through like the bare minimum pretty much to just like stay afloat. And then I went to a really big party school. So the next thing, like my vice was like going out and like alcohol. And I like never really allowed myself to be alone, which is like super weird because I need to be alone probably like 80% of the time for me to like really feel good. But anytime I was alone, I would just think about all this other stuff that I was trying to suppress. And so when all that would come up, my immediate thing would be like, I don't have time to deal with this. So do you want to go out? Like, do you want, and I would just like try and numb it. And then I graduated from college and I moved to this small like island off of Rhode Island. And about 1.5 months after I moved there, I was actually assaulted. And I remember just like, I was a disaster for like 2 weeks, and I was so angry at like the world. And I never really turned my back on like spirituality. It was still like, I thought about it all the time. I continued to see like Amma, who's like the hugging saint who travels, and like Sri Kunmai, and like I've seen Derek Neal and Mother Mears. Like I've always seen like these beautiful people, and like meditation was always there. But I was just so angry and so sad and so anxious. And I just remember like having this conversation, like, God, I'm sick of this. Like, I'm sick of feeling this way. I don't remember what it's like to be happy. Like, help me. And I just heard this voice like, you know everything, like start doing it. And that was like a huge turning point for me. I started meditating like vigorously. I really worked on like inner child. I work on healing, and I like treated it like a second job. Like my job wasn't that like mentally strenuous. So I would come home and like pretty much like as soon as I came home from the time I went to bed, that was like spiritual growth, like time. So it was like really like pretty much like 5 to 7 hours of meditating and journaling. I didn't really allow myself to watch TV, like reading, or just like literally just sitting and like letting myself like release feelings if that was there. Gratitude practices, like anything. I really didn't allow myself to do anything during that period of time unless it would help me like grow or to heal. And so that continued for like about 1.5 years. And eventually I just like over time, just like things just shifted. And I just felt I started to feel like happy again. And like, I remembered what it was like to feel happy. And it had been like years since I had felt that way. And like the numbness started to go away because I just felt like so numb all the time. And my like intuition just increased so much during this time too. Like it was always there. Like I always had that connection, but it was like, I could ask a question and get an answer type of thing. And so it just increased so much, and like my spirituality increased so much. And there was just such a shift into like making that the forefront of my life again, and making that like the most important thing, and like the most important part of my life. And my growth like always comes first, and like my spirituality always comes first. And and then like over time I just kind of realized like, you have so much knowledge. And I like had a conversation with myself. It's not fair to other people for you to keep it to yourself. Like at this point, you know what your purpose is, and it's selfish of you because you're afraid of what other people are going to think, because I was, to keep this to yourself. Like you have a responsibility to share. So you need to start sharing. So I started becoming more open about things, and just like over time, like it's just grown, and my spirituality has grown, and my intuition has grown, and it's always going to develop and deepen. That's like the beautiful part of this, is like, you're never done. Like there's always more things to learn, and there's always more things to discover. It's funny, is like I do things like this and people are like, you know so much. I'm like, I know nothing. Like I'm still learning so much. But that's kind of where I am right now. I open things up to coaching because I so badly want to teach people what I know, and to do it for themselves, and empower people to know that like anything is possible, and like how magical they are. And open myself up to readings and to do healings and just talk about this stuff. Because I love talking, like clearly I don't think I've taken a breath since I started. And I love being able to talk about this, and it's such a beautiful, amazing passion. And I love being able to meet people like you and to be given the opportunities like this.
Oh, I feel that though. Like, I kid you not, Haley, like I still have like a tear like lingering in my eye. You probably didn't see it, but because I have a sick camera, I got like an HD web camera. So like you really can't see a lot, but I was so immersed in you when you were speaking, and it's been a while. Like I'm always so like just in a trance when I bring on amazing guests onto the podcast, but I was just like totally fixated in your story and what you were saying. And you're just so courageous and you're so brave. And I just appreciate so much of your transparency and vulnerability in being so open in your journey, because there was a lot of things that I was even writing down. And then you just went on to answer right away, because you're being so open in all parts of that journey of the moments when, because I was curious about if you had stepped away from your spiritual practice in those moments, and, you know, to know that it's always kind of been there, but there are moments where maybe you kind of turned it off, or you didn't like allow yourself to step fully into that or honor that fully. And then walking us through how you came back into that was just beautiful. I'm curious about, you know, when you were in this process, and you started to go back inward, and you're like, I'm going to recommit to this practice and to my growth, and I'm going to make this a priority in my life. Mm-hmm. You probably had to release a lot of other things, and a lot of your lifestyle had to change, and the people that you were spending your time with changed, and your vices changed. And I imagine the woman who's listening to this might think like, oh my gosh, that feels drastic. Or how did you do that? Or did you get backlash? Or did people text you? What did you do when you didn't want to go out? Right? Like I don't know if you drink or not, but like me and Derek are sober. And so I know what it was like at the beginning of that journey of separating yourself from certain vices, friend groups, communities. In that kind of sense. I'm just kind of curious on like what that looked like for you, kind of going so immersed into your journey, and what had to release on the way.
So for me, I don't drink. I haven't really in like probably like a couple of years. I used to like here and there, and then probably about like a year and a half ago, I was like, nah, like I can channel. Actually, like when I found that like when I like not drinking, I can channel better. And I kind of view a lot of things as like, people are trusting me, and like people are giving me their hard-earned money, and they're giving me their time. And so I have to make sure that I'm the clearest channel possible. And like, I kind of see it almost like as my responsibility. I also don't like alcohol, and like, I don't like the feeling of being drunk, like anymore. So, but like, that's also a huge part of it. It's like, people are trusting me. It's not fair to them for me to like put myself in that, in that kind of scenario. And I'm not saying like, if someone else like does that and they're like do similar things that I do, like that they're wrong or like something like that. It's just, I know how my body reacts to certain things, and I know how I react to certain things. And like, I just can't. So sorry, what was the question?
No, that's okay. I was just like, like I totally get it. I'm the exact same way. But anyways, I was asking like, did you have like, what was it like when you were in that process of like releasing lifestyles and friends and all that other stuff that kind of goes with it?
For me, like how I look at it, and now I look back at it now, is like, oh, I was literally just set up to heal. Like that was what that time period was, because where I was living, no one was around. Like my family was probably like a couple hours away from me, and so were a lot of my friends. And if I wanted to see people, I had to go home and see them. And so a lot of it was like on my time. If I decided that I wanted to like do that, then I could. But a lot of it was just like, I'm also like, you said it was drastic. I'm a pretty like cut and dry person when it comes to that stuff. Like, I'm like, okay, if this is going to make me feel better, I'm going to do it. And especially at that point in time, I was so desperate to feel happy again that I was like willing to do anything. So if that meant that I had to stop drinking, if that meant like alone time. And I think too, I was so around people for so long that I was craving alone time, and like a lot of alone time. And my soul just really needed that. And it needed that healing. And it was hard. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was really hard. But it was also so necessary. And I knew who I could be. And I like saw this person in my head, and I knew that she was in there, and I wanted to do it for her. And like, and I knew eventually at some point, like, I would look back on that time period and I would be so proud of myself for taking it.
I love that. Do you have like, what was I going to ask? I was thinking about if you had like, oh yes. Okay. The question that was coming through for me was if you had, because you're so connected to yourself. And I don't know if you had guides or mentors or support through that time period for you. I'm curious, like if there's things, tools, or certain mentors or guides that you would suggest somebody who's listening to this and they're feeling called to really immerse themselves back into their growth journey and their spirituality. And maybe they're like, I'm not that tapped into myself yet. What does that look like?
So I think for me, I'm just the kind of person, and I don't even know if this is necessarily a great trait of mine. I do fully rely on myself for a lot of situations. And like, I really only go to other people if I just don't know what else to do. So I do like that shaman that I went to go see, like I will once in a while, like see him. And during that time, I think it was like, there was literally like 3 times where I got to a point where I was like, I'm exhausted. Like, this is too painful. I need someone else. And so his name is Ron D'Amico. And so I would go, I think I called him up like probably like a couple of times. And then he did we talked it out. He did some energy work on me, and then like, boom, we moved on. Like I didn't honestly like have a coach, and I didn't really know that stuff existed quite yet. And for me, like it was more just the things I had already learned. But I also know I would never have been able to do everything on my own if I hadn't already learned those tools already. So I do think it is nice to have someone to teach you, because I had it at one point. It just wasn't at that time. It was just there for me when I needed it. So I do think that it is good to, do the research and stuff like that. This is like this might not be great advice. I didn't honestly I would listen to Abraham Hicks once in a while. but pretty much like so much of it and so much of what I had to heal was that I was so worried about what other people were thinking of me. And so going inward was the biggest hurdle and the biggest lesson for me, that I had to learn. So from like that personal standpoint too, is just like, that was just my karmic journey. And that's just what I had to do. And I think it's different for everybody. But yeah, like my teacher, like Georgie, was the one who like taught me so much of that stuff. And then like Ron, when I needed a healing session, I would call him. Like that, it was early on when I had that stuff, but you know, I had it and I could go back to it when it was necessary.
I think this is coming up actually a lot with some of my girlfriends and in business right now. And I think what you're saying is actually really powerful. I think it's a really beautiful reminder, and I resonate a lot with this. And it's kind of been a season that I've been in with myself in my own journey in business. And though I do have a mentor because I'm in a certification right now, I've been taking my own journey differently because very, very similar to you. It's being able to truly trust what's within. And I think it's important to know that you have, like, you know, the way, right? Like we all know our own way. We really do have our answers. We really do have everything that we need in us, but we usually are like, our channels are usually so blocked or like gunky, like you were saying earlier. It's caked on with either disbeliefs, or maybe we haven't actually tapped back into our spirituality in a while, or we haven't connected to source. Or what I kind of want to talk about next is like gods and goddesses and ascended masters and how you actually connect and communicate with them. And I think we just like, we don't allow ourselves to receive the information that's coming in because there is a lot of disconnect, or maybe there's a lot of things that we have in our life, or relationships, or people, or opportunity, like things that just aren't aligned, and they don't feel good, and they're killing our soul in some ways, right? Like they're eating us up, and we're not actually in our highest good. We're not fully aligned in all of the areas of our life, and so we're not really channeling and able to connect really to ourselves and what we truly want, because we're denying our realities, we're denying our emotions, we're denying the things that we want, we're denying the containers we want to be in, because we're telling ourselves like, you know, whatever false truth it is. And so internally, like we're somewhere believing that. Yeah. And I do believe fully that we know the way. And so even if you do find a mentor or a guide or a support system, trust that you know the right one, you know, trust that even with them that you still know the way, and always be very aware of that, because we can't find our answers from outside of us. It's important to be able to have something that can mirror that to you.
And I think too, and a really big thing that I see and what I'm so adamant about talking about is like, don't put people on pedestals. Because all like how I kind of look at mentors and teachers is they just got really good at something that they're able to teach now, but they're still working on other things too. And it's beautiful that they can teach that because the world needs that, but that doesn't make them any better than you. So a really good sign of a good mentor or a good teacher is that as soon as you step into the space, they acknowledge that you are equals and that you're stepping into this space as equals. And that should be the first thing that comes, and that is acknowledged too.
That's really beautiful. I think that's a powerful, because I see this really often. I honestly find that as an like for entrepreneurs, it keeps a lot of them separate from the success that they can have. It keeps them separate from the joy that they can have, the happiness, whatever, like any of the things, because they're looking at somebody else and they're saying that because they have it, because they've done it faster, because they've done it in a different time frame, because they can't have it, and they don't view themselves the same way. They don't view themselves as an equal. They don't view themselves as somebody who can really have that same success in the same way, and they keep putting this other person above them. And it really does put you out of this alignment, out of the frequency of being able to attract in exactly what they did, because they believe that they were at that same level of maybe somebody else ahead of them, right? Somebody else who maybe did it a little bit, don't even say faster, because it's just on their timeline. Like it's their chapter 12 when they fucking read their chapter 12. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but anyways. we're going, and I love this conversation, but it's totally going in so many different directions. It's totally fine though, because it's coming through whatever needs to come through. But I wanted to, because I'm sure that as people are hearing you talk, they're like, tell me more about the goddesses, tell me more about the gods. How do you begin to communicate with them? Is there something that, I don't want to say if there's something that like there's one tip or something, but can we talk about this? Can we have a conversation around them? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're just here to help us. Right. And so a lot of them too are on our teams. Okay. Sorry. There's also other extra, there's extraterrestrials that can come in too. And they're like, we're here too. And I do talk to them too. I talk to the Pleiadians a lot. I just haven't been as open about that. But they want to come forward a lot more because they want to help humans a lot more. And they have a really deep understanding of like timelines and of manifestation and of exactly like how that kind of stuff works. And so they just want to be thrown in there too. They're very sweet and kind and have a gentle energy, but they wanted me to talk about them too. But with any of these beings, they're just here to help, right? So they genuinely just operate in the place of divine love. So, and they are here to serve and here to help uplift consciousness and to here to uplift humanity. And it's all really beautiful, just energy. And so when you tap into that and you can just ask, and it helps too when you like get to know them and you like get to know like Athena is like wisdom, so you can call on her and it helps you to recognize exactly what that energy feels like. And you can be like, that's Athena. So I actually also suggest like doing your research. Like if you feel very, very drawn to certain gods, goddesses, ascended masters, archangels, or Pleiadians or something like that, that's probably an indication that they're A, on your spiritual team, and B, that they're around you and they really want to communicate with you anyway. And so when you open that door of like researching or just going into meditation and having that conversation and asking them to step forward, you can get used to their energy. And then that kind of also sets up the path and opens the door for more communication with them. Because then you're inviting them in and they love us so much and they don't want to scare us. So they're not going to like show up when you're sitting on the couch watching TV because that would freak you out. And like people say that they want that, but if that was to actually happen, like you would have a heart attack and end up in the hospital because Archangel Michael just popped up in the middle of your living room and they're 10 feet tall. So like there's certain levels to like how it builds. So at first sometimes like you just get really beautiful feelings of like, you just know that they're around and you feel love and you feel support. And you can even ask questions. Like one of my meditations, I had so much to heal around relationships. And with Archangel Michael, he's like a really prominent guide of mine. And so I was like, Archangel Michael, like, I don't even know if I was to enter a relationship, what a healthy relationship looks like or how it would feel. Like, can you tell me how it would? And I was expecting him to like tell me and to hear what it would be like. And what I actually got was like an overwhelming feeling of like calmness and security and safety and like a feeling like I could just be myself. And so pay attention to certain points and times because of how you react, because sometimes like a thought will rush through your head or you will see like a vision or an image or like a flash of light or something like that. But then like, don't discard the feelings or emotions too. And like that overwhelming sense, because that is also what I think sometimes people are just like, yeah, whatever. Like I'm like really sensitive to other people's feelings and emotions, but that's really, really helpful. And that is an intuitive gift. So pay attention to those too. And when you get to know them and you can be like, Archangel Michael, like, can you tell me how this feels? And you feel it, then that's opening the doorway in that line of communication even further. And letting them know that you're open to it and that you want to continue this relationship with them.
Oh, thank you for sharing about that. When we talked about this on the episode that we did for your podcast, I felt so at ease after you shared this with me. And I have been calling on and like digging so much more into and just like looking up Freya after you told me that Freya was one of my guides.
I freaking love her.
Yeah. When you told me Freya was one of my guides, I'm like, I feel that. And so I had a lot of like WBM and a lot of this everything with life. Like I've been doing that more through meditation. Do you find there's other ways like visualization? Do you like use oracle cards? Is there other ways that you find that they communicate well with?
So I do like oracle cards. I think I like using oracle cards sometimes for like specifics, because sometimes there are so many messages that come through at once. I'm like, I need specifics. So I'll like just pull a card and be like, okay, you're talking to me. Like I'm listening. I think oracle cards are a really great way to get to know them and to get to know their energy. Above all, I think meditation is the best way to do it. Because what meditation really is, you're listening. And I think visualizations are awesome. And I think that you can like visualize during meditation, but when you allow that space to listen, then they can talk. Versus like if your mind is just like doing its own thing, it's not leaving much room for like them to come in, you know?
Totally. It makes complete sense. There's like this feeling that you get through meditation that as much as you can try to find it through like oracle cards and journaling, there's something that happens when you actually just allow yourself to be in silence, or if you're listening to meditation, because it still work through a guided meditation. Right?
Yeah. Okay. And I think like it's really good. Like make sure if you also are allowed room to talk to them in meditation. And like, if it is a guided meditation, and build your own intuition, because sometimes it's just like, okay, this person has this to say, and then you're moving on, but that's not really helping you grow. So make sure that if you do a meditation, then they're allowing that room and it's designed for you to have that conversation.
That makes a lot of sense. How does any of this, like, does the goddesses and masters and the gods, does this have anything to do with like past lives, or is this two separate things that like exist like for somebody? Because I know that like I don't know a lot about past lives, but I know that we all have them. Like I know that our souls are not new here. I know that my soul has been here lifetimes ago. I'm in alchemy healing, and they've already told us that like our souls for the most part, probably, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but what they had mentioned to us was that a lot of the souls that are here now have been here like for so many times. Like, they're very old souls now at this point.
Yeah.
But I've never had like a reading done. I've never done anything with like my past life. So I don't know anything in particular with my past life, but I'm curious, like, how does this work? Like, does somebody know their past life? Could they feel into that through maybe things that are going on in their life, things they keep experiencing? Or is that something that like somebody has to read and say, this is what you've experienced?
So it works both ways, I think. Like, I don't think there's just one answer, which is not like the best answer, but
no, but it makes total sense. I'm just like trying to wrap my brain around it.
Yeah. So I know for some people, we come in and we have kind of this karma that we want to burn in this life. And we kind of choose like, I want to make sure that by the time I leave, like this is done. So I don't have to come back and I don't have to like do it again, essentially. And so sometimes we see themes popping up. It's like maybe self-worth, maybe it's like abandonment or something like that. Generally, when you see those patterns popping up, it's because you in this life decided, I want to burn this karma off and I want to learn these lessons. So maybe like you had some situations that happened in school, if your thing is self-worth, and then it turned into, okay, like friendships, and then turned into like a situation within like a romantic relationship. So like, even though it's different situations, the pattern is still there. And it just keeps showing up. And so that's a really good indication that this is probably a past life thing. And it's not that maybe like it's never going to happen again, but having that greater understanding of it is really helpful so that you can go back and like examine these past lives. Cause you've had so many, and a lot of especially humans like weren't originally human. They decided to have this human experience and then almost like got caught in this hamster wheel, if that makes sense. So you have many, and Earth is a is a lot older than people think, and like humanity is a lot older than people think. So you've had like a lot of people have had many, many past lives, and not many new souls are being created. So it's pretty much just like the hamster wheel is just like kind of going at this point. So it is helpful to kind of look back and know you can get readings from people, because it's sometimes nice to be like, okay, like just tell me, like I'm outsourcing this one. You can do like a meditation on it. I think like meditations are great on it. And I even know this for myself. Sometimes like something will be too painful and I actually have been doing a lot of past life work lately. And like one of the lies was just so painful that I kept getting flashes of it in like meditations. But then I would like turn it off. And so I actually did a regression, because it's almost like allowing your subconscious to come through. And it was very painful. So I was like, I get why my ego was like, I don't want to look at this consciously. And so like doing that kind of stuff is really helpful. But I think getting a reading is great. I think you can do it in meditation. Always make sure you're protected, because when you're doing past life stuff, you're going really deep in your subconscious and you're astral traveling, and it's kind of like time traveling. And so you want to make sure you're protected, because a lot of realms are being open. And I know this is like super woo-woo.
I love it.
A lot of like kind of realms are open, and like things can come through, and you don't want to like bring anything in that's like not having to do with it. But yeah, it is really helpful, because sometimes it's like unconscious belief. Like I had a past life where I had a really abusive husband, and he made me wear like velvet dresses all the time. And in this life, I like hate velvet. Like, wow. I see it and I'm just like, that's horrible. And like, I won't let anyone, like, I won't touch it. Like I won't let anyone put it on my body. And my mom would try to make me wear it when I was little. I would like throw it off, and I like hated it. And so like, there's like little things like that too, that come up. Or like something you did in a past life. And like, I know I did something in a past life and it wasn't even that big of a deal. And like the person in that life forgave me, but I had so much guilt around it that I was punishing myself for like 2,000 years essentially. And I wasn't allowing abundance to come into my life. And so I actually did like a lot of regressions around it. I did one regression around it. I'm like, that was good. And then I like just worked on like letting it go. And then as soon as I did, a lot of abundance came in. So it is really helpful to kind of learn about them so that you can heal, so that you can let go, and you learn so much in your past lives. You can also unlock knowledge.
So powerful. I'm so fascinated. I need to know more about mine. Do you do past life regressions?
I do like readings on people. I can do regressions on people, but I prefer to do them in person. So I don't really like do them over, but I can,
and where are you?
I can, but I do readings. Like, and I have 2 separate readings, and one reading is like a meet your guides where I facilitate that communication. And then another one is like, it's kind of like it's called like a soul glimpse, where I look at like past lives and like karmic journeys and what yours is, so that you can get a deeper understanding of that stuff too.
Oh my gosh. And as you're saying, there's like these big yawns, because I'm not tired, but I have like these yawns coming through me. So I just like, I'm releasing things as you're speaking for sure. This is so cool. And then there was one kind of thing that I wanted to wrap up our conversation with. It's probably not little, but it was about protecting our energy, because I think that this is a powerful conversation that everybody at some point, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're a human in the world or whatever it is that you do in your life, like this is something that I think all of us need better understanding in, can use a refresh on, and have your knowledge and brilliance in, because we all are in containers or in spaces or rooms with other people. Like I have clients, and I have, Derek and Louie are here all the time, and there's family and students in programs and people online and DMs and all that stuff, plus like daily, like life. So I'm curious because I know this is a little bit about like what your whole program is around, that you're creating is around protecting your energy. I'm just curious, like, what does this look like for you? What does this mean? Can we go into this a little deeper?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm so passionate about people protecting their energy and teaching what exactly that is. Cause I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I work with a lot of people who are putting on events and they're stepping into that speaking space. And so they're holding, and not saying this is for everybody, but I know a lot of entrepreneurs like listen to your podcast. And when you're holding space for so many people, whether it's in your personal life or professional life, you're giving so much of yourself, but it's also these cords can be attached to you, and like people can attach energetic cords to you and literally like kind of siphon off your energy and drain your energy. And so really what I want to do is give people as many tools as possible. Not saying like that's never going to happen, but like understanding exactly what that means and how they can cut them and who to call on, like when it comes to other beings, like the gods and the goddesses and the masters, archangels and stuff like that. How to like work with them, and exactly like the buzzwords that you can say to protect yourself, and like how the steps that you can do to set up that sacred protective space if you are like having an event or you're going to sleep, or like really like whenever you go into a space. And so I really wanted to teach as much as I could around this, because I've just noticed how it's something that so many people need. And they've been craving, and it hurts me because I can see how drained people get. And then you can't show up fully for other people, and like you can't show up for yourself because you're just so exhausted and so tired. Mm-hmm. And it's not fair to yourself. And so I wanted to create something that gave you as much knowledge and information and tools as I possibly could. So I talk about like crystals, and I give you like a list of the crystals that you can wear and like have around you and like where to put them. I talk about like the different like beings that you can call on, and there's like a message from each of them in there. And I like give like sacred geometric shapes that you can like have and like set up, and how to utilize them, and like when to utilize them and what they are. I talk about spirit animals, and there's like meditations and stuff, like cord cutting ones and stuff like that, to make sure that you guys are protected, and that everything is good, and that you can just step into a space and just feel all the love and the light. Because I think that's super important.
Yeah, I completely agree. Do you have like your own kind of ritual that you have when you're protecting your energy? Because there's so many beautiful layers that you're going to bring inside of this space, like inside of your program, where you'll actually be able to walk people through that. I'm curious now if there's anything that you do, or if there's even a few small tips or ways that anybody who's listening could go and start implementing to protect their energy. You were talking about cord cutting. Is that meditation too? Is there even like, using sage and certain crystals, or?
Yeah. So sage is definitely great. I also burn incense. Okay. Be careful of like the incense that you buy, like make sure it's like really pure. Because like if it has chemicals in it, obviously you don't want to like burn that. So just like be cognizant of that. I call on Archangel Michael, because he's the angel in charge of protection, and I ask him to protect me and be around me, from all sides. And then I ask to be shielded in a white light, because white light protects, and it doesn't let anything in or out. And that's like really important when you're like, you don't want anything to come in or out when you're doing stuff, or even if you're just like walking around in your everyday life. And especially if you're on a spiritual path, as your vibration increases, you're literally shining light more. So people are more and more attracted to you. So like you might have like random people coming up to you, especially if you're a woman, like hitting on you like more frequently. And it's like a guy, or even just like random people trying to like start conversations and facilitate conversations. And not that that's bad, but it's sometimes like they just dump like all of their problems on you. And it's like, I don't know your name. And so it is important, because like as you start vibrating higher, that stuff happens more often. And so having that shield around you and making sure that you're like, know when a cord's been attached to you so that you can go in and cut it, is helpful. And then in terms of like crystals that you can wear, I give like, I think there's like 6 crystals I give, but like the black tourmaline is one that I suggest wearing. And I actually suggest wearing it as a necklace. because it's shielding your heart chakra. And I kind of see the heart chakra as like the center point of a lot of energy coming together. And typically I see cords occurring in the heart, the solar plexus, and the sacral. So it's like kind of in that center region. So when you have it at like the heart, it's kind of, it's protecting your entire energy because it's an energy thing. But it's like right there. So that's helpful.
Yeah, I need to go get me a black tourmaline necklace for this event I gotta go to. I'm not even kidding you. Earlier, I was like, I need some protective crystals. I need to go to the crystal store, make sure I have them. Because I swear I have one, but I think my cat's knocked it down or something because I haven't seen it in a while. So when you're talking about that, I'm like, I swore I had one. Where did that go? But no, I need one of those for the event. That we were talking about earlier in the call from the reading. Oh, but this is such a, thank you so much for sharing so much of your brilliance and so many beautiful tips and resources and knowledge and information. And I feel like everything that you're about and everything that you teach and share and help others with is just so felt and received. And I can feel like your passion and how embedded it is in you. And it's just, I think a lot of people can talk about things. I feel like there's a lot of people who can talk about spirituality, who picked up a couple crystals, who maybe read a couple books. And it's different when you're actually speaking and being in the energy of somebody who fully embodies it and somebody who has embodied it for many, many lifetimes, many, many years in this human experience that you are right now, walking in. So thank you again for sharing all of this. The reading was beautiful, and I'm just and I'm so excited. I'm excited for everybody to hear this too, because I know when we first started talking, I was like, oh, tell me more. It just fascinates me so much, and it's just such a beautiful conversation. And I think energy is this beautiful reminder that we all should be protecting. We're all doing this growth. Mm-hmm. We're all on this journey. We are working with clients. We are with mentors, elevating our own mastery and skills. And it's important that we're always taking that opportunity to protect our space and our energy, especially even if whether you're a mom and you're busy and you're forgetting, because sometimes I'll get down that same spot, like, oh yeah, she's crying, you got to go, and you run. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, but I haven't closed off the space, or I haven't, closed off the energy. I haven't cut that tie. And you just kind of can forget, and get caught up in life. And then you wonder, why do I feel so heavy? Why do I feel like there's all this weird shit going on? Oh yeah. I don't know if I told you. One of my girlfriends told me, she's like, Autumn, it's been a while since you saged your home, right? And I was like, yeah. And this was probably a month ago, but a month or two ago. But there were a couple situations in the house, in our apartment here, that weird shit was happening. One of them, I was in the bathroom, and we have a couple cats, and sometimes our cat Phil will go underneath the door or hit the door knob once, but he never will go multiple times. He doesn't know how to do that. He doesn't know how to do that. And Eric and Louie were out in the living room, and it was shaking, as if somebody was trying to get in. And then me and Derek were both standing right in the foyer of the apartment where there's quite a big area. Mm-hmm. And we have a coat rack. I'm nobody can actually see what I'm doing with my hand. But we had a coat rack by the door, and there was my hat on it that I wore in one of my beach shoots a couple years ago. Anyways, I was sitting on the coat rack, and we were just standing there. I kid you not, we were just standing there, and it popped off in front of both of us. And Derek's like, oh my God. And I was like, did you see that? And he's like, you did that. I was like, no, I didn't. I was standing right here. He's like, don't. You can't leave. You're not allowed to leave now. What just happened? And he couldn't believe it. And so I told my girlfriend, I'm like, Autumn, have you saged your home lately? I was like, I don't think so. I think I need to go sage. And I know my auntie passed away last December, and my grandpa passed away 3 years ago in December. 4 years ago in September, 3 years ago in September now. And so I don't know if it's their energy or what, but I don't even know how I got down this rabbit hole. I was talking about like protecting energy and staging the energy. But yeah, just like crazy things can happen if you're not cleansing your energy. Not to say like hats are going to fly off co-racks.
No. And like the thing is with especially like loved ones who have crossed over is they're just like being playful. Like they think it's funny. And like, I kind of get it. Like if I was dead and I wanted to like haha, like this is funny, I'd probably like knock a hop at the co-rack too. Like I think that was hilarious. So like I don't blame them, but at the same time it's like that also freaks us out. So definitely like protecting and staging would be a good idea.
Haley, Louis was laughing the other day. I think it was Saturday or Sunday. I can't remember. And we were just holding Louis. There was like the TV wasn't on. We were about to leave. TV wasn't on. Me and Derek weren't doing anything. And Louis just started got laughing. And this is new for her, within maybe the last couple days. And she just started got laughing for a minute. And at first I'm like, did we do something that she's laughing at that I didn't realize? And then she kept going. And then I followed her eyes and she's looking up and down and all over the place. And I'm like,
oh, she probably saw a fairy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I love little kids. Really? Do you have a lot of plants around your house?
I have plants in here, and I do actually. Yeah, we have a bamboo plant that we've had for 6 years, over 6 years out there.
Yeah, because they're super playful and they like little kids, so they just show up and.
Oh my gosh!
Spin around.
Totally she was just giggling and just looking everywhere. And me and Derek were like, "Hey, wait, this isn't us. What is what is going on?" But oh my gosh! Anyways, you guys, this is long story long about my life. You're welcome. If everyone wants to know the adventures of Autumn, this is what happens in my home. When you don't see me on social media, where we have fairies running around. Oh my gosh. Okay. To wrap this up, because we've had such a beautiful conversation, I want to honor your time and your day. I always love to hold space and take a moment to find out what you're celebrating.
I am celebrating the release of this course that's coming out soon.
Yay.
If anyone saw me on my Instagram, I was crying yesterday because I was just oh my God, I love this so much.
That's so beautiful.
So I am really celebrating. There's just been so many changes that have happened in the last couple of months of my life that have been really beautiful. And I moved into a place that I love. And this course is coming out and I get to work with such amazing clients. So I have a lot to be grateful for. And sometimes I cry because I'm so grateful. But yeah, so I'm just I guess celebrating life right now.
You're just so sweet. I love, oh my gosh, you're just so beautiful. I love emotions. I think it's totally fine to, how you're in your bliss, right? It's it literally evokes that much emotion out of you. Oh, so beautiful. Okay. Now, where can everybody find you? I'm going to put all your info in the show notes, but for anybody who's listening and needs to go find you ASAP, where can they go find you?
So I hang out on Instagram a lot. That's probably that's where I like to talk to people. My Instagram handle is I am Haley Cole, and I spell Haley Haley. So if you wanted to check me out on there, that's majority of where I hang out. And then I also have a podcast, and Autumn was on it, and I loved the episode. It's called the Shine Bright Podcast. And yeah, if you wanted to book a reading or are interested in growing your spirituality and my coaching, I have a website called shinewithhaley.com. And then I'm also coming out with this energetic protection course really soon. So yeah, I'm excited.
I'm excited and I'm celebrating you. I'm celebrating everything that you're doing, creating, and bringing to the world to make it better and brighter. Thank you so much for sharing your time and being here with us today. I just adore you so much. And I can't wait for everybody to hear this episode.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
Love you so much.
I love you. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.